She wasn't horrible. She wasn't bad. She wasn't terrible, but it was just not a match. I feel as though she needed therapy herself. Welcome to Kalan the Voice podcast. I'm your host, Anel, and here we talk about all things healing, inner child, self-improvement, God, spirituality, in full transparency. It is episode 5. And if I'm being honest, I only have a topic. I do not have notes today. I do not. Usually I have notes because, I'm still getting the hang of how I record things and how I say things, but God was like, you being a little bit too structured for me. I just need you to talk. So let's see where this takes us. Let's see what I talk about. I obviously have a topic, which is therapy, and I feel called to say my testimony about therapy and how it has literally changed my life. Not exaggerating at all. So let's get into the episode. Since I do not have any notes today, I am basically going to tell you the story about how therapy literally came into my life. I just want to say before I get started that I did not want to talk about this yet, but what would I be doing to myself if I was to be talking about something else that is not, I don't feel like I was going to talk about something else, but it's just I wasn't feeling it. And then as I was doing my notes, I kept changing the topic, but then I kept going back to a specific topic, which was therapy. And then I was going to make it into a I was going to make it into a topic of conversation about how therapy can help you. But then God was like, if you tell your story, it can help other people. If you tell your testimony can help other people. And I said, ooh, you know what? You're probably right. Because you're always right. So yeah, I'm just basically going to go over the story about how I started therapy, and I just want to say that it's going to be a roller coaster and it's going to make sense. Feel what I'm trying to say? Okay, cool. So, why am I nervous a little bit? Let's talk about the timeline. This was, I want to say, 5-6 years ago, right? Yeah. For those of you who are trying to figure out my age, I am old enough. It is rude to ask a woman what her age is. Okay? And I don't even look my age, so thank you. Yeah. I was in a really dark place in my life. Really dark. Like, down bad. Probably the worst time of my life. And I went to the doctor for a checkup, regular physical. And my doctor, who literally changed my life, and I don't say that lightly, when I say change my life in this episode, please understand that I am not saying that lightly. I am very serious. I know I talk very sarcastic, but I'm really serious about certain people and particular things that have happened to me that truly have changed my life. I went to the doctor and I dropped weight really drastically. And I'm going to get into that testimony soon, but not right now. I am not ready to give that testimony because it's a lot, and I don't know if I'm convincing myself that I'm not ready or that I'm really not ready. So until I figure out what is best, when is the time to talk about it, that's when I'm going to talk about it. But for right now, I'm just talking about therapy, but this relates to it. So I dropped weight drastically. She basically starts to ask me, what's going on? And I start to tell her, of course, briefly, because you only get like 15 to 20 minutes with a doctor. And she's like, okay, cool. I'm going to have you see people because there's no way that you drop this much weight in such a short amount of time, and your body, you're going to disappear. You're going to disappear. And I said, okay, cool. And at this time in my life, I was really robotic. So forgive me if I don't remember particular details, because there's some things that I truly do not remember. And all I remember is that I showed up to everything despite anything that was going on in my life. And so this is what they don't tell you about therapy. When you go to the doctor and get a referral to go see psychiatrists, you have to see multiple psychiatrists in order to get to the actual therapy part. So these different psychiatrists basically sit you down and ask you very triggering questions to the point where you want to punch him in the face. I'm not exaggerating about that. So I ended up going through with the process, and I meet with one psychiatrist, then I meet with another psychiatrist, then I meet with another psychiatrist, in that order. Then I meet with the actual therapist. Horrible. She wasn't horrible. She wasn't bad. She wasn't terrible, but it was just not a match. I feel as though she needed therapy herself. That's not to shame her or anything, but seriously, she had a very what's the word? She had a very trying to, like, she was trying to connect with me too much, to the point where I was like, okay, well, I shouldn't feel how I feel because you feel that way too. And it's really the reason why I always tell people I understand after they are vulnerable with me and tell me something deep or personal, because as individuals, we tend to try to relate to people in the times that they're being vulnerable, and in a way that's like taken away from their moment. And it's it makes you start, as the person being vulnerable, it makes you start like normalizing certain things, because just because it happens to everybody, that doesn't mean that it's not as drastic to you. Am I making sense? She needed therapy her damn self. I went to like 2 or 3 sessions, right? But keep in mind, I was not open to therapy. And that is what I want to get my point across, because maybe I should have gave her more chances, but because I was not open to it, even though I was showing up, my perspective needed to change. And that's the main thing that I want people to understand of this episode, is that you need to have a very open-minded perspective on therapy within itself. You cannot go in there thinking that it's going to work with 2, 3, 4, 5, 7 sessions, because that's not going to happen. It's not realistic. It's just not. It takes time. You got to think about it. You have to unpack everything that you've ever been through or that you're currently going through in order to get somewhere else, or to feel like you're working on something. It takes time. So because I didn't give it time, I just stopped going. And I had my reasons. I didn't feel like we connected. I felt like we were just very different. We didn't relate. And I just stopped going, aside from me not being open to it. I go again to the doctor for a checkup, again, an update, because she wanted to follow base with me, because in fact I was very unhealthy. I go in there, she's like, hey, so how it's going? How's it going with, the whole, therapy, and like the therapist, like, are you liking it, are you not? And she's just so enthusiastic about this, and I'm like, I stopped going. She said, what do you mean you just stopped going? Like, what do you mean? I was like, yeah, I just didn't feel like it was working and it was not relatable. She's like, I understand. I get it. Because a lot of people don't connect with a lot of people, and it's going to take several people to see if you match. But I really need you to try, because I don't think you understand where this can go if you don't start to take care of yourself. And something in that moment when she said that really just, I don't know, it just snapped. Like, something made sense about what she was saying. And I really do, just a little sidebar, I really do think that God really has always divinely protected me, because he has either sent people or has given me resources to get through what I was going through within the same time frame that I was going through it. Come on. Because realistically speaking, things happen, horrible things happen to us, and then time passes, and then we realize, oh, this is affecting me. In my life, that has not happened very often. It's more so I've always had an outlet or a resource to get through it while I was going through it. So, listen, that's how I know I'm loved, truly. Honestly, truly. I really do believe like God just be listening to me, and it happens sometimes because sometimes he sends people. Sometimes he's telling you what it is that he wants you to know, but you don't listen. You're like, "Oh, okay, that sounds cute, but okay, cool." But it's not until a stranger practically is telling you something and it just happens. It's just there's beauty in it. So she says, okay, I am going to connect to somebody else. This somebody else ended up being my therapist for the next 2.5 years. Amazing. And she was in the same facility that my appointments were. So it was literally perfect. I met her and it was literally a match. It felt like I was talking to my bestie. And I am so grateful for her because literally she saved my life. Aside from God, okay, she literally changed my life. And like, I really don't know where I would be if I didn't continue going. Whew. Whew. I started to see her every week. At first, I was seeing her twice a week, and then I started to see her once a week. I'm not going to sit here and say that the journey was perfect because it absolutely was not. I walked out of sessions, I didn't come, I would not answer the phone. Like I was actually going through a really rough time, and it was rough, but I don't know what pulled me to keep going, just to show up. And even if I were to roll out of bed, I would literally roll out of bed and walk, because from where I used to live, it was 10 minutes away, and I would literally just walk and make it on time and show up. And I was phenomenal at showing up. Despite anything that was going on, I was going to be there on time. And yeah, so we followed through. Everything was great. Obviously I had things that were currently happening that were really rough, but I was processing as it was happening. So eventually, throughout time, I started to detach myself from what was happening and just isolating and slowly understanding that a lot of what I've went through wasn't even my fault. It was just the only thing that was my fault is that I continued to allow it to happen. I don't know. I don't know the science behind explaining something to a complete stranger that makes sense. Because when you sit down and you're explaining what's going on in your head, it starts to make sense because you're actually hearing yourself. I want to talk about the strategy that she had, right? I don't know if it was because I was a particular person that time that she chose to go about things with me in a particular way, but she had a you know the answer, I'm just helping you figure it out approach. And she would rarely tell me exactly what things were because that is probably what I needed. She is gifted because she never wrote notes down. She never had a notepad and a note pencil or a pen. She never had any of that. And till this day, if I call her, she literally remembers everything I've ever told her. And that's why I say, like, your gift is not for you, it's for other people. Because imagine having 40 plus patients, or however many she had, to remember each person every single week. That's crazy to me. Like, I would have to write it down. And yeah, she's great. If you're watching this ever, you have a special place in my heart. literally. Fast forward, the whole pandemic happened, and I was going a little bit between that time. I was still talking to her just like through the phone, and then I moved. So I still was going when I moved, but then I eventually stopped because she moved. At first I'm like, are you breaking up with me? Like, I'm sorry. Like, just leave me like the rest. Like, no. We no. And, she basically told me, like, you're ready. I know you're gonna be just fine. And, just speaking life into me. And then I took it as, you know what, if the distance and her moving is a sign that, now is the time that I need to use what we went over and what we worked through as practice now, then I got it. Yeah. And let me just say that you don't know how much work you've done until you are triggered. And I'm not gonna lie, I did revert back a little bit to not what I used to be, but like in my mentality. But then I started to realize that, yes, I did do a lot of the work, but there's also things that a part of the work is being in it to know how to work through it. But all in all, I did pretty good. I'm proud of myself. And let me tell you why I know that I did well and continue to do well, because I react in a healthier way. I think about what I promised myself a long time ago and act on what I promised myself rather than how this person's gonna feel or what. None of that. Everything is pretty much, we cannot go back to that ever again. And that's how I knew, like, wow, the old me would have been slashing tires and ripping up social security cards. I'm not, I'm not, I didn't do that. But you know what I mean? Like, I don't like to be like, I was crazy. But I was a little bit insane. I'm not gonna lie. Am I proud of that? Is it cute to be saying that now? No, it's actually embarrassing. Because it's not cute to be doing all that stuff. Because people really take you there. They do. And it's like, why would you try me like that? But we're not gonna go down that rabbit hole. Anywho, fast forward. Now I am on my own, and I go to the doctor again. This time is in a whole new different place, a whole new different doctor, and it's a guy now. And they have you fill out the questionnaire about, like, are you feeling down, hopeless, or depressed, like that, all that stuff. And I guess I checked off some things that were questionable, and he comes in and he's like, hey, have you ever thought about speaking to somebody? I said, yeah, I used to, but I'm fine now, so I don't really feel the need to be doing that again. And he's like, just because you're not going through anything that drastic, that doesn't mean that you don't need help or that you don't need to be talking to anybody. And was I silent or was I silenced? Because damn, like, what? It's like the same story is repeating itself. I'm not gonna lie, before that day, I did think about, getting a new therapist. But I'm like, I'm not really going through nothing. Like, in my head, my perspective was like, I'm not going through anything crazy. Like, I'm stressed about certain things, but I'm not going through anything traumatic. So I don't really need to be talking to anybody. And it's just like, no, that's not true. Just because you're not going through anything crazy doesn't mean that you're not entitled to go talk to somebody. And then I further went on and got a new therapist, and she's also great. So my first experience was horrible, but then my second two experiences were great. And I feel like a lot of people have bad matches and they think that therapy is just overall not gonna work because they haven't found a match. Let me tell you something, baby. Look, you gonna go on dates until you find the one, right? Correct. So do that for yourself. Something that is going to help you be a better individual, because you should want and strive to be a better individual every single day. And this is for you. At the end of the day, if you don't fix it now, you're going to be like this forever. Facts. You are. No one's coming to save you. And that's something that I had to realize for myself. Nobody cares. Everybody has a sad story. And no one is coming to save you. New therapist is great. She's good. But let me now tell you about her approach as a therapist. She's more so of I'm going to give you the answer and allow you to think about the answer as to why you're feeling what you're feeling. And then I'm going to ask you questions from what you respond to me. Three different ways of approaching therapy. One didn't work, two did work. And it just goes that way. Isn't it funny how I'm wearing balance today and my favorite color? Because my favorite color is green. It's really up to you, honestly. I may be missing pieces of this story. That for right now, that's just what I can remember. So that I wouldn't make this story too long. But I really hope that y'all really look at me and understand that I am just trying to be better every single day. And I feel like you should too, because it's important. We are here to reproduce life. We are here to make the world a better place. And if you are not a better person for you, how can you do that for the world? And, sometimes people on this planet really are not meant to do that. But if you have the awareness and you have the desire to change and fix certain things and just become better, then that means it's meant for you. Everybody goes about it in different ways. Everybody has their own timeline, but I really think that therapy does work. It does. It only works if you do, as everything else in life. And if you really choose to sit down and have an honest conversation with yourself about who you are right now and what you envision to be, it's gonna take work. And it's gonna be internal first. And a lot of therapy is your inner child, your childhood, literally. 98% of it literally goes back to your childhood. Whether you like it or not, there is something that happened when you were 8 that shifted the whole perspective on how you think on a certain situation and how you feel about particular things. Literally, I'll be thinking about things when I was like 5. I remember it clear as day. And childhood is so important. One thing that I did forget to mention is when I got a new therapist, I did change my perspective on how I was going to go into it, because usually you're like, yeah, well, I know this and I know that and I know this, and it's like, I couldn't go in with that perspective because this is a whole different person with a whole new strategy, and I'm in a whole different time of my life. I cannot use what I did before to help me now, because if I knew all the answers, why am I there? And I feel like people think that they know themselves so well and that they know the answers to everything, that you go in thinking that, oh, well, I know what I am and I know what I'm not, and I know you know everything, and you don't, because clearly you're here. But I really do advise and am a advocate for therapy. Therapy does work. It just takes time. And yeah. Okay, for today's Baddies Boundaries tip. Again, I do not have any notes, so we just gonna go off the dome, okay? Change your perspective, or your perspective is not gonna change you. Woo! I just made that up. It's pretty self-explanatory. As long as you have the same mindset and the same outview on certain things and situations, nothing is gonna change. Nothing changes if you don't change. Okay? So that's it for it. That is it for today's episode. I hope you guys enjoyed. I hope you guys took something. I hope that you guys took my vulnerability as something that can help you in any type of way. Comment down below if you're in therapy, if you're thinking about therapy, if you have a bad experience, if you have a good experience, just comment down below so that, you know, I can know what you guys are going through, because, you know, I just want to know the tea. Make sure that you like, comment, share, and subscribe. Make sure that you turn on your post notifications every time I upload a new video. And of course, make sure you're doing it for yourself every single day. Bye!